Hello everybody, welcome back. It's Mr. Whaley here, continuing on with our DES1040 3D Design 1 module. And today we are going to be looking at a project that is designing a basement suite. So for this project, we're going to really get into the whole design process. And I've included that review of the design process on the first page right here. So looking at identifying the problem or need, researching the problem, generating ideas, choosing the best solution, and so on. So first of all, identifying the problem or need, the design brief. Here it is. Mrs. Moran has just purchased a new house and would like to convert the basement into a separate suite that can be rented out. She has heard of our design company and comes in for a consultation. So during your discussion with her, you find out some certain specific details. So the basement of her house that she has just purchased is 35 by 30 square feet for the interior space, which adds up to that amount of square footage. The basement does have a separate entrance on the side of the house with stairs leading down. The walls are 8 feet high. There's a utility room that's a specific size. There's 4 windows that are specific size. And this is something we'll definitely have to incorporate is the 3 structural support posts that run through the center of the basement space. And currently there are no other rooms or walls. So those are the details that we have. And these are the details that we are going to add into her space. So it's going to be a suite that has 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen, and a living area. And the floor plan and walls will be designed to work with those 3 structural support posts. So we'll have to incorporate that somehow. The suite will ensure the windows are accessible from both bedrooms. So 2 out of the 4 windows need to be where the bedroom spaces are for fire escape purposes. And we will be adding in typical furnishings, your couches, chairs, appliances, and lastly, we'll be covering the areas, the walls with paint or whatever kind of material we decide, as well as the flooring. So that is our design brief. We are going to be using SketchUp for Schools for our 3D design model rendering. So I'm just going to scroll down here. And these are the topics that I'll be covering the lesson. So not only will we be creating this basement suite, but we're going to be learning a bunch of excellent tools and techniques for not only this project, but for future projects as well. So what I'd like to actually start with is towards the bottom of the list with measuring. So we're going to be using the tape measure tool, which is T, and I'll just scroll back up. We need to make sure that we know exactly what those dimensions are. We're going to be creating guidelines to start essentially our floor space. Okay, so let's start with just some guidelines that are going to show us where the basement suite is. So 35 by 30 square feet. So I'm going to go over here, grab my tape measure tool, which is that one right there. Looks like a little tiny tape measure. T is the shortcut for that as well. So the way that the guides work is you just start on any line, and you can see as I drag out, it's creating that dotted line, which is a guideline. And I want to make that an exact distance. So you can see down here, the length is changing as I move my mouse, but I want that to be exactly 35 feet. So I'll go 35, enter, and now that is 35 feet away. Then from this green axis, I'm going to drag out 30 feet. So I'll click once on the green and then just move my mouse, and you can see it's starting to move out that guideline, and I'll go 30 feet, enter. And now if I zoom out, you can see I've got that rectangle space that's 35 by 30. All right, so then what I could do is I could draw in my rectangle, which will be the basement. I could do that now, or I can just keep creating some guidelines either way, whichever works better for you. I'm just gonna use my hand tool to move over a bit. I think what I'll do is I'll just plop down that rectangle right now. So I'll grab the rectangle tool, which is R for our shortcut. And now the great thing is I can just drag right out to that space, and it's exactly, and you can even see right there, 30 by 35, which is perfect. Okay, so now I think what I might do is switch to my overhead view. So those views are right under here. Yeah, the view menu, and I want to see the overhead right there. Okay, so you can see that it's going longer, so that's our 35 and then 30 this way. So we're basically looking from the top of our basement suite. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is actually a tool that we used in a previous video, which is under here, the push-pull tool. It's this one here where we can add that extra offset or inset. So first what I need to do is select that space. Then I'm going to grab that tool there. And what I want to do is make an offset. So I'm essentially going to make the basement walls. And typically, a concrete basement wall is, I don't know, let's say 10 to 12 inches. So if I click on that and come out, you can see my distance in the bottom right corner is dragging out. And again, I could type in an exact amount. So let's just say 10 inches. So we'll go 10 inches, and go enter, and now we've got that offset that's 10 inches. So that's going to be our basement wall eventually. All right, I'm just going to pause. Okay, so we're going to continue and just put down some guides, just so we can kind of sketch out how the floor plan is going to look before we actually start building things in there. So with those guidelines, you can leave them in and delete them later. The way that you delete them is just grabbing the eraser tool. So actually these exterior ones we no longer need. So I'll grab the eraser tool right now, and you just click on the line to get rid of those guides. So if we go back to our design brief, we've got the starting point. So we have our 35 by 30 dimensions. The walls will create those later, but what we do need to kind of decide is where the door is going to be. So the basement has a separate entrance on the side of the house. So we'll call this the side of the house over here that has stairs leading down. So somewhere in this area, we're going to need to create some stairs that go down into our basement suite. So we could say the door is over here, or maybe the door is right off the front and the stairs go down this way. I kind of like that idea, so let's maybe go with that. So I'm going to just create that outside door space for now. So I'll grab my rectangle tool, and you can just decide where the door is going to be. So I'll say maybe we start right there, and the door is, I don't know, what, 3 feet wide. So we're going to drag that out, and we're going to go, I guess we can eyeball it up. So that's about 3 foot 4 inches. Let's go 3 foot 6. Actually, we'll make it exact. Let's go 3 feet 6 inches exactly, and then click enter, and there we go. So now we've got that door that's 3 foot 6. So we know the door is coming in, and then our stairs going down will come right. Actually, I guess we'll make a little landing first. Okay, so right from here, actually, I guess it would make sense to have our little entrance landing thing, something like that idea, I guess. Can we get it on there exact? Okay, let's go right about there. That looks good. 3 feet wide. Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. And then our stairs are going to come off of that. So not too sure. This may be adjusted later, but let's say the stairs take up about that much space. Okay, and then we'll draw on our stairs later, just using the line tool. Okay, so we know that's going to be our stairs going down. So that gives us the rest of the floor space now. Okay, so one thing we do need to incorporate in here is there's a utility room, and we'll add in the actual like furnace and washer and dryer and all that stuff. We'll do that towards the end. But for now, we need to know that it's 12 feet by 10 feet. So somewhere in here, we need to make a 12 by 10 square. So we need to decide, okay, where's the best space for that utility room? Is it going to be over here? Is it going to be right maybe next to the stairs? So you just need to pick a corner and go with it. So maybe we'll say the utility room is right in this corner here. So I'll start here, and again, it's going to be 10 feet by 12 feet. So if I drag that out, you can see right in the bottom, my dimensions are starting to come out. So we can just type it in instead of trying to get that just in the bottom box there. So I'll go 12 feet, comma, 10 feet, click enter, and there it is. So that takes up a fair amount of room, that utility room. So it's already starting to eat up some of our floor space. So we're going to have to be really careful with the rest of it. Okay, so we'll make the windows later on as well. We can add those in at any time. The 3 structural support posts running through the center of the space. So we need to line those up because you're not just going to have random posts all over the place. So I'm going to click T to get my tape measure tool back. Okay, and it doesn't really matter where I do this. So I'm just going to click on the outside edge for now. And actually it would make sense if we actually intersected the house right down the middle. So at exactly 15 feet, if we put that guide down, that would put us right in the middle of our house. Okay, so I am going to type in 15 feet, enter, and that puts the guide right at 15 feet. Okay, so then I'm going to make one other guide just on the other side of that, just so we can kind of put our posts in between there and our walls. Okay, so we'll go something like that. So we know our support posts are going to be going down the middle. So there might be, like, say, there's 3 of them in total. So probably one there, one here, one here. And that can either be built into a wall or they can just be posts kind of separate on their own, but they do have to go there. So let's just grab our rectangle tool. Okay, and we'll just eyeball those up. So we'll put one right about there, and then one basically in the middle or so. So a little post right there, and then we'll go one more somewhere right around there. Looks good. Okay, so those are going to be our 3 support posts. We'll pull those out later. So the rest of the walls need to kind of keep those posts in mind. Okay, so what you wouldn't do is, kind of build a little room right around that post. That'd be weird. Windows support posts, no other walls or rooms are currently in place. Okay, so then we get to sketch out basically the rest of the dimensions as far as where's our bedrooms and bathrooms and that sort of thing going to go. Okay, so we need to have 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and then the kitchen living area. Okay, and the rest I think we'll be able to work on after. So we need to sketch those areas out. So one thing that's really neat is if you actually go back to the tape measure tool and you just click on one space and then drag to another space, you can see how wide that is. So right in the bottom there, it shows the length from there to there is about 5 feet. And that's plenty big enough for a hallway, for example. So you could easily have a hallway going down in between there and then create your bedroom off of that side. So I think we can definitely work with that. So we know that that's 5 feet. And I haven't clicked on that second point. If I did, it would actually create a guideline there, which I don't want. So I'm just going to click the space bar to get off of that. So you need to start deciding, okay, how is my floor plan really going to look? So the important things, bathroom, 2 bedrooms. Those have to be within some wall areas. And we'll build the doors in here after as well. So, you think bathroom is probably going to be near where the utility room is. And then we still have these stairs coming down, which may have to be adjusted as far as the length afterwards. But you have to decide, okay, where am I going to want this bathroom? And to me, something that would make sense is maybe plopping the bathroom right in this area here and then having the door open up this way so you can kind of access the bathroom going in. And 5 feet should be plenty wide enough to put in your bathroom. So you're going to have to, toilet, sink, probably that idea. And I guess a shower too, if this is going to be a basement suite. So we need to keep that in mind as well. So you might want to even just go have a look at your own bathroom in your own house and just get a rough idea. How big is it, or how small can you make it in order to fit into this basement suite? Okay, so that's all part of the design process. So, getting those ideas, sketching down some ideas, coming up with a plan. I'm just going to pause right now, and I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to measure out some dimensions and figure out how much space we actually need. So pause here and let you do the same. Okay, so after doing some quick research, I found that you could pretty much do a bathroom in about 8 feet by 5 feet. So I'm just going to check with my tape measure tool again. So click T and let's just make sure. So if I click there, So that is over 5 feet, 5'2", not including walls. So I guess that's going to be a factor too. Some walls are going to cut into that a little bit, but that's okay. So 5'2" going that way. And then if we wanted 8 feet, yeah, that's not a problem. So in fact, 8 feet would go right to the edge of that post, which would pretty much be perfect. So I think that's probably our best plan, is we'll do it that way. And yeah, so might as well go with that. So we'll go and grab our rectangle tool. Actually, we don't even need to. Let's just put some guides down. Okay, so with the guides, what I'll do is, we know that it's going to be, right to the wall there for the bathroom. So I'm going to go right to about, well, yeah, let's put that guide down right there. So with that tape measure tool, the way that you create guides is you find where you want it to go, which is right here. And oops, Control Z that. Okay, so actually we need to drag out here. So I'm going to drag from here, and I'm going to place that guide now right there. Yeah, there we go. So that right there is going to be our bathroom space. Okay, so we don't necessarily need to have a wall going right here. Just know that that was made for the bathroom there. Or I guess we could actually draw out a rectangle right there as well. That might not be bad, although we have to incorporate the walls. Let's just leave it for now. Let's get a rough idea of where things are going to go. Okay, so we know that's going to be our bathroom. That's our utility room. That's already there. We'll have to cut a door in that space after. Okay, and then our other things are 2 bedrooms and then kitchen, living area. Okay, so kitchen, living area, and remember plumbing. That's going to be something important too. So it would be kind of weird to have, the bathroom and utility room over here, and then the kitchen on, let's say, the opposite side, because you'd have to have plumbing going here as well as over here. So it probably makes sense to try to keep that more or less in the same area. Okay, so what we could maybe do, let's just check what the distance is from here to here, just in case, let's say, a door was going right there. So if I click here and then drag that out, so that's 3 foot 3/4 inches. So you could easily put a smaller door in there getting into the utility room. So what I'm thinking is, we could almost think about having some kitchen area right here. So let's say if our counter was here and our sink at least was right here, coming off of the bottom of the stairs, which is fine. That's basically going into your suite. You could probably put the kitchen area right in here in this open space. That would make a lot of sense. So let me just get off of that. It's a bit annoying. So you could have like your sink, your fridge, all of that stuff right there, kind of like a counter workspace area. Maybe your stove right in the corner here as well. So you could go like stove, sink, fridge, that sort of idea all along there. And then you can put the kitchen table really anywhere that you want. It can be here, then your living room, maybe you have your living room over here. So that actually gives us some really nice space to work with. So we've got our bathroom here, probably kitchen area, kitchen living room area in this open area, and then you'd have some walls partitioning over here to make your bedrooms. So I think that's actually a pretty good plan. And even if we had this post that was just kind of in the middle of the room, so say the kitchen kind of was in this area here and then living room continued over here, it's just one big open space. It's okay to have that post there. I'm sure you've seen basements where you've got like a post that's built into kind of a little enclosure, and that's just there for support. Or again, you could just make a wall that goes across there. Okay, so let's go with our bedroom area next. So bedrooms, we don't have any specific dimensions. So you might want to, again, maybe measure out your own bedroom at home, check out some different floor plans, do some research, and find out what space would make the most sense. So I'm just going to pause right now and do that myself. Okay, so doing some research, I found that you could definitely make a bedroom space work in about 10 feet by 14 feet, depending on how the closets work. So 10 by 14. So let's grab our tape measure tool, have a quick look here. So I'm going to click there once and just drag out. And so there'd be about 10 feet, 12 feet, 14 feet. Actually, let me check again what this distance was. So let's tape measure from here all the way to there. So that's 14 feet. So that could be our long side of the bedroom. So that actually works out perfectly. So if our bedroom is kind of in a rectangle, almost where those guides are right now, I think that would work. So 14, we could go and then go 10, like good 10 feet this way. We'll just have to be careful as far as where the doorway goes. So let me just check this once more. We'll get our tape measure out and have a look about where 10 feet is. Okay, so 10 feet's right about there. That won't work. Well, actually it could, depending on where our living room goes. So if we did it this way, our door would have to be like along this wall here, because remember, this is the bathroom already in that area there. So you wouldn't have a door, going from your inside of the bathroom to your bedroom. That would just be weird. So our door is going to have to be along this side anyways, or unless we had it really extended out. So actually, if we went up to there, that would be a 12 foot by 14 foot room. And then you probably could get your door, kind of right here, because then it would be a door here into the bedroom, door here into the bathroom, door here into the utility room. So that something like that could work. So that would be a 12 foot by 14 foot bedroom approximately. So that might not be bad. So maybe why don't we put down a guide right there? And if we have to move it, we will, or change it. It doesn't really matter. It's easy to change. Okay, so this space now is going to be one of the bedrooms. And again, we'll kind of decide, do we want the door here, which would make sense. So like a door here into the bathroom, door here into the utility room. Okay, and then our second bedroom could either go into this space, but then that would mean like our kitchen's here, and then kind of over here would be living room, and then we'd end up having a post in the middle of the living room. So I think a better plan personally would be, if one bedroom's here, maybe we put the other bedroom on this opposite corner and then leave all of this as an open living space. I think that would actually make a lot of sense. So let's just check out some dimensions here. So we already know 14 feet is going this way, which is fine. And let's see about where 10 feet would be for this other bedroom. So if we drag out just to give us an idea. So if we, put it down somewhere, even if we made it more or less the same as that other side, which was somewhere around 12 feet, if we put that down right there, that gives us, you know what, I'm just going to drop it at, let's go right to 12 feet exactly. So I'm just going to type in 12 feet, go return. Okay, so that gives us a 12-foot guide. So that would be one bedroom, another bedroom, and then all of this area here, we would have our kitchen, counter area right there. And that gives us all of this extra space. So living room area here, let's just see how wide that is for a living room. So it's 11 feet. You could figure out where your TV and couches and all that sort of thing is going to go. And of course that can go over there as well. So I think that's really good starting for our floor plan. So I'm going to pause there and we'll move to another area of learning. Okay, we're going to start putting some walls in place. And I know we haven't gotten to a lot of these topics yet, but we will. So we're going to sketch in some walls now. So we already have our exterior wall. And typically a wall, like on the interior space of a house, would be about, let's say, 4 inches, because a 2x4 would be what a lot of the like framers and construction industry people would create the walls with. So 4 inches plus, some gyprock, but let's just call it 4 inches. So each of our walls separating rooms need to be 4 inches. So like this room that we created here, we actually will need to make a wall that's 4 inches, just to make sure that our specs are, pretty much exact. So let's just grab our tape measure tool, and I just want to check a couple things. And the first thing I want to check, I just kind of guessed at how far this distance was, but if I click here and then click over here, you can see the length in the bottom there. It's actually over 7 inches, so 7 inches and a quarter. So that's actually way thicker than a wall is going to be on the interior. And the post, like those teleposts, are easily, you could fit that into a 4-inch space. So I think there's a bit of a mistake here. I think we're going to need to redo these guides in the middle here. So I'm just going to grab my eraser tool and I'm going to erase that guideline there. And these little posts that we drew in here are now not quite accurate as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete those for now. So just draw that out, we'll add those back in later because we just kind of eyeballed that anyways, estimated where they were going. So what I need is from this guideline, we're going to make another guideline that's only 4 inches away, so we know where that wall is going to be. So grab my tape measure tool from here. I want to make it exactly 4 inches, so I'll go 4 and then the quotation for inches and go enter. So that is how the wall is going to look. So 4 inches wide. So we can do that now. We know where those other walls are going to be going. So there's going to be a wall here that's 4 inches. So if I go like this and drag that out, we'll go same thing, 4 inches. And then this is going to be a wall right here. From here, we'll go 4 inches. Okay, and then same thing over here. So I guess we'll cut it in this way. It doesn't matter. You could go that way too, whatever you think. Might as well go out this way, expand that a bit. So we'll go 4 inches. All right, so that's more accurate as far as how the walls are going to look. And we can cut into this one a bit. You know, it might not end up being exact, but it's going to be good enough. So we'll go over here and go 4 inches in. Actually, that doesn't really matter. We'll do that later. I'll just get off of that. Okay, so that gives us a better idea of where the walls are going to be. And we may need to now zoom in a bit because otherwise it's going to be a little bit hard to see where we're putting those posts, which is what I want to do. So now we know there's an intersection going to be right here. So there's going to be a door. How did we have that? Right here for the bathroom, right? Yeah, so let's draw in that door next. So get my rectangle tool. And you know what? I'm going to draw in all the doors without taking up video time. So I'm just going to pause, draw in all the doors, and come back in a second. Okay, so we're back, and I did some more quick research and found out that a interior door is, the opening is going to be about 2 foot 8 inches, which is a standard interior size door. So what I am going to do is also expand these walls for the utility room just so that we have that in place, and then also add that door. So to expand that, I'm going to just select that rectangle that we've already drawn and then go back over here to the offset tool. Okay, and we can either decide the walls can go towards the inside or outside. I think I'm fine with going towards the outside, and I want to make those exactly 4 inches. So I'm going to type in 4 inches, go enter, and there we go. And then I need to draw in that doorway right here as well, which I will with the rectangle tool. So the way that I did that as well, just so that it was exact, is I went right to, actually I'll probably maybe start it right about here as well. And then I'm just drawing out to start. And you can see my dimensions in the bottom, but I want to make it exactly 2 foot 8. So I'll go 2 foot 8 inches and then comma 4 inches and click enter. And that gives us that exact dimension. And that works out pretty good. It's kind of maybe might have been better to make it exactly the same kind of offset as that door. So I think I'll exactly do that. So let's go back, actually zoom in a bit so I can see a little bit better. Yeah, because otherwise I kind of had that door. It was not quite the same as this one, so we might as well make it the same over here. So we just drag that out. And again, we'll go 2 foot 8 inches, comma 4 inches, enter. And there we go. So now that door, that door, that door, they're all the exact same dimensions. And maybe the bathroom door might have been better in the middle, but we'll just leave it there. Okay, so zoom back out and grab my hand tool with H. And you can see now I've got a door to this bedroom, that bedroom, the bathroom, the utility room. So we're good with the doors. So now we just need to draw in the walls to finish off the floor space. So we do have this wall in place for the utility room, but I do need to create these walls over here. So you can do that a couple different ways. You can do like what we did here, draw one rectangle, then do the offset to build out that wall space, or you could use your line tool. So for example, with a line tool, you could click on this line, go over here, and over to that space there. So that might be faster, and I'll maybe fill in all the walls. I'll go pause and I'll fill in all of those walls. Okay, I'm not quite done, but I wanted to let you know I found out it was actually easier and faster just using the rectangle tool. So I've already done a bunch of them, and you'll see what I mean. I'll just scroll out a bit here. So with the rectangle tool, switch to R, I can actually just go from here because I know that's a whole wall. Oh no, that's not a whole wall structure. So we need to stop right there. Oops. Okay, what's going on here? Get out of there. Let's zoom in again here. So this wall is only that little piece because we want to keep this open. So good thing I remembered that. So this little area though, that is a wall. Okay, and then let's zoom back out here. So now this wall, oh yeah, I see now I made a mistake. I made a wall right here. Okay, so what do I need to do? I'm just going to erase some of that. I'll pause and fix this up here. Okay, so just grabbing the eraser tool, if you make a mistake, you can just erase certain wall sections. So we've got our door here, door there, and then this is going to be a wall. So let's grab our rectangle tool, go over here, right to that point, okay, which is what it'll be. Oh, you know what? We also forgot to draw our post back in, so we'll have to do that as well. Okay, so from there to there, that's going to be a rectangle. And then let's grab our hand tool just for that last little section. Zoom back in, rectangle. This will be the last wall section that we need, right to there. Okay, now we do need to put those support posts back in, but realistically, we could say, okay, that's a support post right there. And there's going to be a support post right in that area, but we do need that one that's in the middle. So maybe we'll make it exact. So I'm just going to zoom out. And if we know that this whole length is 35 feet, you can do some quick math and make sure that you have your 3 posts, so 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to pause and figure out those measurements. Okay, so I figured it out. It's going to be about every 9 feet. That's where I need to have a post. So I'll just grab my tape measure tool and we'll just drop some guides down just for ease. So I'm going to go right from the interior of that wall and we'll go to 9 feet or so. Let's see what that looks like. So 9 feet, where is that going to place us? Right in the middle of that door. So for this one, we know our post is actually going to be right in that inside area. So that's 9 feet. Our next one will be 18 feet. So maybe we'll do that one. So yeah, 18 feet is going to place us somewhere in the middle of our living space, which will be fine. So I'll just type in 18 feet, enter. And so that point right there is going to be where one of the posts go. And then we'll have another one that's 9 feet out from this wall. So let's go from here, see where 9 feet is. So again, 9 feet's right in the middle of that door. So we either need to go on this side of the door or this side of the door. I think I'm more inclined to that side. So I'm going to say our post is going to go right up against that side of the door, which is fine. So we know it's there. Okay, so let's just zoom in a bit and we'll just draw out those posts just so that we remember that they're there. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to make those circular. So I'm going to grab my circle tool and we'll go right from, zoom in a little bit more here. So that's our point that was 18 feet. Okay, so what I want to do is put that circle right in the middle here. So from that point right there, if we draw out, oh yeah, that's not actually what I want. Okay, that might be challenging. Pause. Okay, so I'm just going to actually draw a quick guideline in the middle of these two, just so that I have a center point to work with. So I'll go back to my tape measure and we'll just go, it doesn't really matter, anywhere along here, and I just need a 2-inch guide, and this will only be temporary. So we got our guide now. Let's go back to our circle tool, and now we should be able to click on the middle there, draw that circle out, and then we know it's exactly that dimension right there. Okay, and then we'll use our hand tool. Actually zoom out a bit so we know where we're going here. Okay, and so that was the middle one, and then we need the 2 others. Okay, so the one was right about here. So let's zoom back up there, grab our circle tool, and we'll draw one more post right about there. Oops. Okay, might have to zoom that in. Yeah, okay, Control Z, zoom in, just so it's easier to work there. It doesn't really matter. So we'll just drop that circle. Jeez, it's really bouncy. Okay, I'm gonna have to try that again. Zoom in a bit more. There we go. Yeah, something like that. Okay, and then our other post is at the other end. So our 3 support posts, and we knew that other one was going to go just on this side of the door. Okay, so zoom. I'm using my scroll wheel and the hand at the same time. And switch over to the circle tool and just draw out a circle somewhere like that. Okay, that's good enough. All right, pause there. Okay, so we've basically sketched in our floor plan. So now just to clean up the area so it's a little bit easier to see everything that's going on, I'm going to start to erase some of the guidelines and things that we no longer need. So grab the eraser tool and you can just start getting rid of these guidelines, which we no longer need. So you just basically hover over it and get rid of all of those lines. Okay, and actually another thing is these little extra pieces here, we're not going to need those anymore either. So maybe I'll pause and clean the rest of this up. You get the idea of where I'm going here. So pause. All right, so I made a decision and decided I was going to erase the lines where the doors were just so that it looks like an open passageway, and we can always add those doors in later. So now what we have is our layout of the floor plan. So this is going to be our utility room, our bathroom, our 1 bedroom, other bedroom over here. We still have this kind of exterior stuff happening over here. This will be our stairs eventually, kind of the upper landing coming in from the exterior door on the side of the house right here. And then this leaves us this whole open area with the exception of this little post that's going to be in the middle there to install where our kitchen appliances, sinks, all of that stuff is going to be along over on this side here. And then we can decide how we're going to use these spaces over here. So overall, I think it looks fantastic. And we're now ready to start filling some details in. So I'm going to pause there. Okay, so now that we have our basement suite essentially sketched in as far as what the floor plan is going to look like, where all the walls and doors and layout is going to be, now we can actually start adding things into our suite. So we're going to be bringing in some components like chairs and furniture and that sort of thing. And then we're going to learn how to basically manipulate them and get them into the right place and right size. So we're going to start with this area here with the move tool. So firstly, let's, what do we want to start with? I guess let's go with some living room stuff. So I'm going to go to my 3D warehouse. So that's under the components. And you go to the second tab. And let's start with a couch. So we're going to go with a couch. Enter that, and you get a bunch of ideas here as far as what you want for a couch. So really, at this point, it's just for demonstration purposes. So if you want, you can scroll through page after page and try to find something that you really like. But maybe I might just grab that one, see what that looks like. So I drag it in, and let's say our living space is going to be probably, what's going to be the best? Coming down from the stairs. Really, I guess it doesn't matter. Let's say it's going to be on this side here. So we're going to plop in a couch right here. It doesn't really matter where. Okay, and then we also want a coffee table. So let's go back to the top here, type in coffee table. Okay, and just find one that looks good. So let's say this one right here looks all right. Oops, not sure what happened there. Okay, that's wrong. Let's Control Z. So, oh, yeah, I see the problem now. Okay, so I think I have something selected. Yeah, I've got the move tool selected. Okay, so let's try that once more. Coffee table. Okay, yeah, that's doing something really weird. Okay, let's pick a different coffee table. That's not working for me. That one there. Okay, something is, oh, there we go. Okay, so I ended up putting it in the wrong place, which is perfect because then we can move it anyways. Okay, so I'm going to show you some of these tools over here. So first I need to actually get out of this view. That's kind of messing me up. So let's just, oops. I think I just did that a bunch of times. Ooh boy. Okay. So yeah, let's collapse that. There we go. I need to go to a different view. So let's go maybe back to that one there. There we go. All right, so grab my hand tool, move over here. I'm just going to close this window here for now as well, just so we have more space. Okay, so some of the things I wanted to show you is in this area here. So the move tool and some of these other things that we can do. Okay, so I'll just zoom in a bit. Okay, so this couch, it's probably okay. If we actually got our tape measure, we could see kind of how big that is from one side to the other. So that couch right now is about 6 feet. So I guess, yeah, that could pretty much be a couch size. So we may have to decide, okay, maybe we only have a couple couches and a coffee table over here and then something else on that other side. Yeah, that's not too bad. But if we did want to change that, I'll show you how this stuff works. Okay, so first of all, move tool. So the way that works is the move tool is this one right here. And the shortcut for that is the letter M, but I do have it selected now. So if you go over top of any object, you can see that it more or less highlights the object. So if I highlight this one here and I just click on it, I can move it now along that same plane, which is what we want. So right now it's going along the red axis. Okay, and then we'll probably put the coffee table, I don't know, somewhere right about there. We're just eyeing it up. Okay, and then if we wanted to move that couch over, we could click on that, move it over a bit, decide where that's going to go. Okay, so that's how the move tool works. You just go over the object you want to move, click on it, and then just move it. But yeah, you see what happened there? I pressed down and kind of sinks in. So you have to be careful that it moves along the right axis. Okay, and if you wanted to lock it into an axis, like if you only want to move it completely sideways, you can see that dotted green line. But if I use my arrows, it locks it into that axis. So now I can only move it along that axis. I can't do anything else with it. Okay, until you click, and then you can make another move after that. So that's dragging along an axis. If I did want to set an exact move, like if I needed to move that like exactly 2 feet, I could select it, type in 2 feet, click enter, and it moves it exactly 2. Selecting multiple objects. So if I wanted to move both of those together, I could just grab my selection tool. I would select that, hold down shift, select that, press M for my move tool, and then I could move both of those two things together. Okay, what else do we have here? Duplicate. So if I wanted a second couch, there's different ways. You could go back to your components window and move that in. I'm just going to close that out. But a quicker way I find, okay, I need to get off of that. So a quicker way to duplicate is by right here, by holding down your Alt or Option key. Some computers might actually be the Control key too. So you might have to play around with that a bit to see which one it is. But essentially, what I would do is select it, get my Move tool, but before I start moving, I would hold down the Option or Alt key, and you'll notice the cursor then now gets a little plus beside it. So now when I drag this, it's actually going to create that duplicate that you can see there. And I'll drag that out right about to there. So now I have the two couches. All right, and if I actually wanted to duplicate, let's say I wanted like 4 couches, or let's say 4 kitchen chairs, which eventually we'll need. So I've made that one duplicate. While it's still active and I've just duplicated and moved it, I could go times, which is the little asterisk, and then let's say I wanted 4 in total, so I would want 3 copies. I would click enter, and now I have that many couches, and then I could move them and put them into position afterwards. Okay, but we'll maybe just select that one, delete it, select that one, delete it. Okay, so that's really what I want, is those 2 couches. Okay, and now we're going to look at the rotate tool. So just pause for a sec. All right, so we're back and looking at how we can rotate things, because obviously this couch is facing the wrong way. To demonstrate the rotate tool though, I'm actually just going to go off to the side here and just quickly draw out a rectangle. I find that it's easier to do the demo just with a basic shape as opposed to a structure like the couch here. So I'm just going to grab my rectangle tool and just draw out a basic rectangle, just really quickly, get my pull tool, pull that out. Okay, so there's a little rectangle. So now, with a rotate tool, I'm going to show you how that works. So the rotate tool shortcut is Q, and that gives us the rotate tool. But if you want to find it in the menu here, it's right under the move tool, that one right there. Okay, so you can see as I'm moving around, you get this protractor that's turning colors and flipping to the different sides. So what that's showing is if I were to click on this side of the shape and use the rotate tool, then it would kind of rotate around this way. If I went to this side and rotated it, it would go lengthwise. And if I go on top there, I can rotate it around on an axis from the top. So it'd be like spinning around, which is essentially what I would want for the couches. You can see you get the same idea, but it's a little bit harder sometimes to find that point that you want to rotate on. So for example, let's say I wanted to rotate this front face. What I would do is click it once to set it. Okay, so that's my point. And oh, it's not working for me. There we go. So select that face and then you draw out, and you can see I've got this line coming out here. It's that green dotted line. So that means I'm rotating it on that plane. So I'd click once more and then rotate. Oh, that's not doing what I want. Okay, so let's actually Control Z that. Okay, let's go on top instead. We'll try that. Yeah, so I click once and then I drag out, and you can see I'm getting that guideline. I click again to set that as my axis, and then I rotate. It's still not doing what I want. Okay, I'm going to pause for a sec. Okay, I just remembered what I was doing wrong. So I actually need to select this entire object. Otherwise, what it was doing was just rotating the one face, which was kind of just twisting it into a weird shape. So I need to select the whole object essentially. So I'm just going to click on that edge, right click, and go select all connected. So now it's the entire box. Okay, I could have just selected it with my selection tool as well. But now when I go to my rotate tool, now it's going to rotate the whole object, not just the face. So again, let's say I wanted to rotate it from this side. I would click once, I would drag my guideline out, click again, and then I could rotate the whole box around like that. Okay, and if I want to make it exact, you can see on my protractor, I get to 75 degrees, 90 degrees. It kind of snaps into those 15-degree increments. And you could even set it, like if you want to rotate it an exact amount, you would just type that in, click enter, and there it is. Okay, so again, let's say I wanted to make that 45. There it is. It's now rotated 45 degrees. If I grab my orbit tool, hand tool, you can see what just happened there. Okay, so we'll Control Z that. Click Q again to get my rotate. So what I really want is to rotate it from this plane. So I click on top, and then I can just drag out, get my guide, and yeah, you want either the green or the red, one or the other. Okay, so now that I've got my green guide, I click that to set it, and then I'm going to rotate it. And in the case of the couch, I'd be rotating exactly 180 degrees going around the other way. Okay, if you want to rotate it just 90 degrees, you could do it that way as well. Okay, so now I can actually delete this object and go back to our couches over here. Okay, and I might just orbit around on top so it's a little bit easier to see what's going on here. Okay, yeah, whatever, something like that. Okay, and then I'm going to select this. Now I don't need to right click on it and do that all connected, because this is a component. It's like that whole thing is grouped together. I can't really do anything with it because it's basically just one big piece. So I'm just going to click on Q to get my rotate tool. And with the rotate tool, again, you're just going to click on the surface you want to rotate. And this is a little bit trickier. As you can see, it's a little bit kind of jumpy in a way. So what I can do is just click right there on that endpoint. I find that gives me the most success. So you can either rotate on a corner or on one of these edge endpoints. Okay, so when I click this, I click it once, and then I drag out to get my my guide or axis that I'm going on. So I'll go right onto that green, click that again to set it, and now I'm rotating that couch all the way around 180 degrees, click, and it's now good. But the problem is I kind of rotated on top of that coffee table. So I better grab my move tool, and we'll just pull that back a bit. Oops, something like that. Okay, so that's how you do your quick rotation. If I did want to rotate on the corner point, you could. So just for a demonstration purposes, if I go over here and then draw out my line to set it, then I could actually rotate around that kind of axis point like that as well. Okay, but I think we're good. Yeah, if you wanted to rotate this, you actually could for some reason. If there was a reason why you were making copies of an object as you rotate it around, kind of fanning it out, you could, but you can do that on your own. Okay, so the next thing is going to be the scale tool. I'm just going to pause for a sec. Okay, so the scale tool is essentially just to make something bigger or smaller, really. So let's look at our furniture. Maybe I'm just going to grab my orbit tool, just kind of come around here, see what it looks like from different angles. And it doesn't look too bad. But if, let's say you brought in an object like a coffee table and it was either way too big or way too small, let's select that. So I've got the coffee table selected, and the scale tool, the shortcut is S. It's hidden underneath this one here. Oh, sorry, not that one. Scale tool, it would be, oh, same as the rotate. So we've got move, rotate, scale. But I can actually just use my S key to get there. So that's our scale tool. We do need to have the thing selected though. So I'm going to select it, click S, and this gives us all of those handles. So you can really move any of these handles. So if I actually wanted this to be longer, I would grab the edge one right here, and I could actually make that coffee table longer. If I wanted to make it taller, I would grab that one right there, and it kind of stretches it out, whatever your object is. If you wanted to keep something in proportion, so you want to just make it smaller but not shorter or longer, like kind of keep it in proportion, you would go from these outer handles, and then the whole thing kind of scales up and down but keeps the proportions the same. Okay, so you just kind of eye it up, see what looks good. That's how your scale tool works. Pause. Okay, continuing on, I just drew in a quick little rectangle over on this side and added some lines. So we're looking at this section here, moving faces and edges with the move tool, which is M, our shortcut. We've already used the move tool to move our furniture around. So we'll just click M. So a face would be like that, like a surface essentially, whereas an edge would be any of your edges. So you can just hover over those, and then you could actually move a face or an edge with the move tool as well. So you could select really any face or edge to move it, and it does act differently than the push pull tool. So just kind of be careful if it doesn't do exactly what you want. So you can see right there, it's actually moving that face, but it's kind of distorting the shape at the same time. So maybe good, maybe bad, depending on what you want. Like if you wanted like a ramp shape, something like that, you could do it that way. I'm just going to Control Z, but you can see how that works. Same thing over here. See, this looks more normal, like a push pull, because it's just one, kind of dimension that you're moving. There's no other option that could happen here. But if I were to take, let's say, this edge right here and move that, then it gets all kind of crazy. Okay, so undo that. So you can really, manipulate certain objects. This, I think I've already demonstrated that. That's how you would create like a roof shape. So that's how the move tool can move different, either an edge or a face. And you can move corners as well. So if you went to this corner and let's say you wanted to pull that out, you could. Control Z that. So as you can see, it does act differently than the push pull. And you can select and shift multiple surfaces and then move them together. So if I wanted to move, let's say, let's just go to our selection tool. Let's say I wanted to move this line. So I'd select that line and hold down shift, select that line. So I could move those two together. So it would kind of pull those two out at the same time. Go to my move tool, and you can see I can actually move both of those at the same time. Okay, and yeah, you can select one face, right click, and get different options for the selection before moving it. So if I were to right click on here, again, you can kind of pick different areas. Okay, so that's the move tool. Ooh, still have it selected there. I'm going to be deleting it anyway, so I'll just grab a big marquee and delete that whole thing in one shot. All right, so we're going to be moving on to a whole new section next. I'm just going to pause. Okay, so now we're going to get into the area of grouping and more or less organizing our project. So for grouping, that would be, it's almost like you're kind of locking an object so it can't really be modified easily. You can still modify it, but there's ways to do it. So for grouping, for example, so let's say I wanted to group this as a single component that you can move and kind of keep it as one thing. So I'm going to select, the best way to do it is just select one of the edges, and then you right click and you go select all connected, and that selects the whole thing. If I were just to make a big marquee around it with a selection tool, I could, but depending on where you are, you may start to run into, touching other things with your big lasso thing that you draw out or your selection. So this way is easier. Just select one thing, right click on it, select, and then all connected. Okay, so to group it, right here is you right click and then we're going to group it. So, oops, just lost it there. Need to select all of that again, all connected. Okay, and then I'm just going to right click, I guess really anywhere on here, and we are going to make a group. So now here's the neat thing. If I were to get, let's say, my push pull tool, which normally you could just go and hover over an object, now you're seeing it, it's showing you that little warning, means like you can't do anything. You can still select it, like there's my group, but then you can actually move it as well, but then it moves the whole thing. Okay, so it essentially turned it into almost like a component, like this couch, where you can't really modify that either. You can just move them around. All right, so now if I did want to actually modify it, it's this right here where you essentially double click to open it. So if I just go back to my selection tool, and let's say I wanted to actually make this higher, which right now I can't, but if I double click on this object, so I double click it, it opens it up in kind of a secondary layer or way that you can access it. So now when I grab my push pull tool, letter P, now I can actually go over top of that surface and modify certain things. Okay, and then when I get out of there, so I just double click to get back out. Now I grab my push pull tool, and again, I can't do anything with it. So that's how you can group an object, and it's, like I said, it's basically like locking it down. Now, let's say the couches, let's say I actually wanted to modify the couches that were brought in as a component. I can do what's called explode. So that kind of opens it back up, and then we would regroup it again later. So for example, with these couches, if I were just to select, let's say this one right here, and I right click on it, there is this option here that says explode. Okay, and when I do that, it now becomes like this box where I can edit different parts of it. So if I actually went to my push pull tool, I can now, make that bigger if I wanted to. Okay, which I don't. That's just weird. Okay, but that's how it would work. And then you'd want to regroup that back again afterwards. So you would essentially have to do the same thing where you're regrouping it. So you would select one edge of it, select all connected, all connected, and then just regroup that in. So make a group or make component, either or. If you make a component, it's going to ask you some other information. So for now, we'll just group that. So it's back how it was. Okay, so that's grouping. And I'm going to pause. Okay, so the next section with grouping and organizing, working within our project, is creating components. So when we brought in these couches and we were looking in that 3D warehouse, those are components. So it's like a, one unit, one kind of object that you're bringing in, but it's got a bunch of details. You can actually do that with your own things that you create. So for example, if I wanted to actually make a door, so I would kind of sketch out that rectangle shape, maybe I'd put that doorknob on there, maybe even color it, do everything that I want to it, and then I would make that door a component. And the neat thing about making a component is then it actually ends up in your project window. So when I go to this 3D warehouse here, the components, you can see all of the things, go to my home page here, all of the things that I've used throughout this project. So if I wanted to bring back in that same couch that I just had, or actually I guess it's that one right there, then you can bring in more of those couches. So if I created a door and made it a component, it would end up in this area here that I could use in multiple places. So something that I think would be practical to do would be actually a door. So if I want all of my doors to look the same, that's in the basement suite here, all the interior doors, I could make one and then make that a component. And be able to drag that in and use it in all of the locations. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. But I am going to pause just while I create the door, and then I'll come back in and show you how the component works. Okay, so I'll see you shortly. Okay, so I made a door in that space, and I made the door 6 foot 8 inches high, which I just did a quick measurement of a door inside of my place, and that's how high it was, so we'll go with that. So what we're going to do is make a component for this door so that we can copy it really easily. So I need my selection tool. I'll just select any of the edges, right click on it, select all connected. So, okay, that's a problem. Just pause for 1 sec. Okay, so that didn't work just because the door is connected to the floor. So we're going to have to do this a different way. Hopefully it works out. So you're going to have to simply select one thing, hold down Shift, and literally select all the rest of every piece of this door. Okay, so I'm just going to pause for a sec again, and I'll finish that off. Okay, so that took a little bit. Had to make sure I had every single face and edge selected. So I was basically swapping between Orbit tool, which is O, to rotate around, check things out, Zoom, which is, I'm just using my scroll wheel there, and then hitting spacebar to get my selection, holding Shift to be able to add faces or edges to it. So let's say if I missed this edge, I could click on it and that one is now gone. So I want to make sure that I still have that selected. And the faces are active when they get these little dots on there. So you can just do one more quick check, make sure that you have every single part of it selected, zoom out, but I'm pretty sure I do. Okay, so now that I've got that whole thing selected, I'm going to right click on it and create a component, so a door that I can reuse. All right, so if I right click on it, I have to go to my selection tool, try that again. So right click on it and make component. That's what we want to select right there. Okay, and you get this little dialog. So we're going to call this interior door. Interior door. Okay, we don't really need any other descriptions, so we'll just say okay. Okay, so that is now a component, which is really neat. So if I just kind of scroll over a bit, you can see it's got this different edge on it now. Okay, and if I, got my push-pull tool out, for example, right here, I can no longer select that, like it's giving me that warning. So I can't really do anything with it. I could still move it. If I got my move tool, I could move the door. Okay, and just Control Z that as well. All right, so that door is now in my component window. So the cool thing is I can copy that in multiple places. So I could put one right there and then just move it and rotate it into position. So when I go back to my 3D warehouse here, if I was searching for a door, I could type that in. But now when I go to my home screen, that interior door is now there. And when I click that once, there it is. I'm bringing in another door, exactly the same, plop it in place, and perfect. I can just recreate that over and over and over again. Okay, so I'm just going to pause there. All right, so I'm back and decided to do something totally differently. That door actually ended up causing me some grief because it ended up taking a piece of the floor away when I wanted to open it up. So I've just redrawn a new door over here, and I'm just going to quickly create a component out of that as well. And because I've drawn it off of this surface, it's going to be way easier anyways. So if I just select one of those edges, right click on it, select all connected, now it's only just selecting the door. So it's way faster, does it in one shot. Right click on this, make a component, and we'll call this interior door good. Okay, and now that is a component, and you can actually see it's already showing up on the side here. So that is the one that we want to recreate and drag into other spots in our floor plan here. Okay, so again, because it's a component, just like in our 3D warehouse, you could search for a door, or you could go to your home screen, and now we have this interior door good. Click on it once, drag it in, and then you would move it and rotate it to get it into the right position inside of that doorway there. So I'll just drop that right there, and then you can do that with the rest. And again, use your rotate tools that you learned previously, where you would go to that corner, Rotate is the Q tool, so you would rotate it on here, click that once, draw your line out to set your guide, rotate it around so it's 90 degrees is what you're going to want there. So click that, and then you'll have to move it into place with your move tool. So grab your move tool, slide it over wherever you need to get that door. Okay, so you get the idea. So you can just quickly recreate all of the doors that you need. You can do that now or you can do it later. Just wanted to show you how awesome that component thing is. And down the road, when we actually start coloring our walls and surfaces, the neat thing about components is if you make a change to it, so as it says right here, so if I go back to my original door and I painted it brown, all of the rest of them would then change to be brown as well, all of the copies, which is really cool. And again, if you wanted to just get into one of them, you would explode like we learned before. And let's say only one of those doors I want to make a different color, you would explode, paint that surface, and go on from there. Okay, so I think that takes care of our grouping and components. Next thing is we're going to look at using tags and layers for organization. Okay, just jumping back in for a second here. So I am actually going to go ahead and make all of the doors and position them. So I'm just going to show you one more quick thing here. Just zoom out a bit, and let's grab one more of these, drag it in, and I'm just going to place it here for now. Okay, and we'll do a quick rotate on that. So grab our Q rotate tool, go on top, rotate it. Oops, I think I just messed that up. No, actually I'm good. Okay, so set it to that red guide right there, and then we'll rotate that. We'll go a full 90 degrees. Okay, so it looks like it's a little bit jumpy. I'm just going to type in 90 and go enter, and then scroll back out. And I'm going to move that door into place. And I'm just going to show you how I snapped it. Actually, I can move it to that one too, either or. Might as well do that. So we'll zoom in, and I'll show you how that move tool works really, really well. So if I select that, get my move tool, I can select this bottom corner, and then I can actually snap it right. So I just click that bottom corner, and then I'm moving my mouse, I'm not dragging. So I move my mouse to that other point right there and just click it, and that sets it in place way, way faster. Okay, I'll finish off the doors. Okay, so you can see I've added my 4 doors, moved them into place, and looks pretty good. So now we're going to look at our last organizational area, which is using what's called tags in SketchUp, but it's kind of the same idea as layers in Photoshop. So we're going to, first of all, create a bunch of tag labels in the right side menu. And the tag menu is this one here that looks like kind of like a luggage tag. So we're going to click on that, and I'm going to delete those because I don't want those anymore. So untagged is essentially everything that's in this scene right now is untagged, and that's our only layer. So what we're going to do is create some names for our layers. So essentially ways that we can group things together. So I'm going to start with a tag called doors. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to call that doors. Enter. And so we've got a tag name and a tag color over here. So you can rename it if you wanted it not to be purple, whatever your label, you can just change that. And you can create as many of these as you want with the plus. So we'll do one more, and we'll call this one living room furniture. And you'll see why shortly. Furniture. Okay, enter. And again, if I wanted to actually make that a different color, you would just click on it, and I don't know, maybe you want it to be like somewhere in yellow. It's kind of, whatever, yellow color. You can select that, just say okay. So all the living room, it's going to be in that kind of yellowish tag color. Okay, so now how do we actually use these things? So we've created those tags. So what we want to do now is add objects into those tags. So right now, everything that's in our scene is currently untagged. So what we want to do is select the object component. And so we'll start with our doors. So we'll get our selection tool. I'm going to select that one, and I hold down Shift to select all of them all at the same time. You could do it individually, but why not do it all together? So we get all of those. Then we're going to right click and then get this entity info. Okay, so we've selected it, and now I'm just going to right click anywhere on here, and you get this entity info. So this opens up this other window here, and then you double click current tag, which is untagged. So everything, like I said, is right now in this untagged. So I'm going to double click on this current tag, which these currently are. Okay, and then what I can do is decide where do I want it to go. And I want it to go into the doors. So that's how that works. You double click on current tag, which is untagged, then you choose from your list of the ones that you made. And now the neat thing is now that it's in that layer, just get off of there for a second, I can actually turn the doors on and off in one shot. So you can see how useful that'll be just for when you go to your client and show your model and your designs, you can turn the doors on and off. And you can even save, two different versions of this scene, one with doors, one without. So now let's go back and let's get the furniture. So we'll select the couch. I'm holding down Shift, get my coffee table, the other couch. Okay, right click on it, get to entity info, which it is already open here. So this is currently untagged, as you can see. So I'm going to double click on that and add it into living room furniture, and that's where it is now. So just so you can double check how things have happened, let's say I go back to my door again. Now you can see the current tag is under door. So if I change my mind later on and want to put that in furniture, I would just double click on that, the current tag, and then say, okay, I want that actually to be in living room furniture, or maybe back to untagged, but that is not actually the case. So we'll do that. And so again, we can now turn on and off our living room furniture. Oh, so I missed somehow, not sure how that happened. I'll go back and fix that, because for some reason I missed those little couch legs. I'll fix that up. You can even show like what's been tagged in certain colors. So if I go over here, you can see, okay, all the purple stuff is the doors, all the yellow stuff is the living room, all the red stuff is still what's untagged in my scene. Okay, so I'm just going to go back and fix those, and then we'll move on. Okay, so just to finish off this section, the problem I had with this couch is earlier I had ungrouped this or exploded it, so I could show you how you could actually modify a component, and I missed adding those legs back in when I regrouped it. So now everything is the way it should be. So I can turn my living room furniture on and off, or my doors on and off, and you'll be able to do that with other elements that you add in here, your bathroom, living room, all of that stuff, or kitchen, whatever. Okay, and then the last thing I just wanted to point out with this entity info window, so that's the window right here. If I were to close all of these, the top one here is your entity info. So in here, if there's anything selected, so say again, this couch is selected, it'll show you the current tag and some other information. If this were an outdoor scene and we had some shadows going on, like say the outside of the house and it was casting shadows, you could actually turn whatever is selected to have shadows or not. So you can really get into some fine details as far as what your display looks like. So turning your shadows on and off, that's those two icons. And it affects whatever is affected. You can see it changes in your entity info. So that's a door. You can see what the tag is there. And you can also lock objects here as well. So if you wanted to, let's say, group a bunch of things together or whatever, you could just lock things on and off. Yep, so that's it for your entity info. And I'm going to pause right here before we move on. Okay, so now we're going to move into our materials and textures section. This is where it gets really fun, where we get to paint the walls and add floor surfaces, hardwood, whatever we want. But before we do that, we actually need to bring our walls up. So what I'm going to do is actually turn off, I think, these other elements just because they're going to be in our way for now. So we'll go into our tags and just for now turn off the doors, turn off the furniture. And at this point in your design, you may have added in all of your other furniture elements as well. In fact, it's probably easier to do it now than later on when the walls are in the way. Okay, so when we drew out our floor plan and we made all these walls, I actually erased any connecting lines. So let me just zoom in here. So like I took the eraser tool and erased just so that all of these walls were connected. That telepost circle may be in the way. But what I'm getting at is you should be able to use your push-pull tool and go over this surface, and you can see there's a bunch of things that are connected. I can see right now that those walls aren't though. So if I select this area right here and pull it all up, look at that, it's magic. So those walls are coming up. Not sure what that is. Oh, that was a, yeah, I'll just erase those lines over there. So if you remember, you can go back and check, but the walls, I believe, were supposed to be 10 foot high. Let me just actually Control Z that for a second. Let's just scroll up to our design brief here. So the walls, where are we here? 8 feet high. So walls are 8 feet high. So when we go over here, use our push pull, what I'm going to do is just type in 8 feet, click return, and boom, now our walls are 8 feet high. But you can see it didn't get everything. Like I didn't get that one telepost. Those teleposts went in because they were actually inside of the wall. So that's totally fine. Those are good. But I do want to bring those other ones up. So you can either, I'm just going to zoom in a bit more, you can go over top of that section and pull it up and do the same thing, you know, enter your 8 feet. So I'm just going to close those tags. But a really neat kind of tool that happens in SketchUp is if I double click on this surface now, it'll just do the exact same thing. So I can go to this telepost here now, might have to zoom in a bit more. Yeah, double click, that post is now 8 feet. I'll use my hand tool to get over to this wall here, switch back to push pull, double click, that's now 8 feet as well. So if we scroll out, we can see that all of our walls are now raised to the right height. And that's actually really starting to take shape. It's kind of fun. If we actually go back to our tags now, we can turn our doors back on. So our doors are in place. We may end up wanting to connect those afterwards as well. Our living room furniture is also back in place, and it's actually starting to look like a real floor plan. Okay, one thing I'm going to fix though, just for us, for visuals, I'm just going to orbit around and fix the visual on that. Those lines don't belong, so I'll grab my eraser tool, click on that line, click on that line, and boom, looks much, much better. All right, so that's definitely starting to look like something. I'm going to now move into the textures, materials and textures section. So the home tab has materials that you've already used in your scene, which right now we don't have anything. I'm just going to close that out. So the materials is under, where are we here? Components, okay, materials, there we are. So that one right there. So basically, this is where you can select a surface and paint it with a type of material. Okay, so if we go over here, yeah, so this is where you've got just some basic colors. And then over here, you can actually select different types of surfaces. So if you wanted, you know, something to be like a stone surface like tile or tiles right there, you could select that. Different colors for paint, glass and mirrors. So there's all these different types of surfaces that you can use for your floor plan. Okay, so just to demonstrate, I'm just going to orbit around here. Let's say, for example, hand tool, move this over a bit. Let's say I wanted this wall to be like just a certain color. So let's start with that. So we click on color, you can see there's like tons and tons. So this is where your interior design skills are really going to come out when you start picking colors. That's a very, very important step in any kind of design. So a lot of times people want just kind of neutral colors, like more gray. So we could start with, say, I don't know, even this darker color gray, for example. So if I click that, and you can see I got a like a paint bucket, and I click on that, it now makes that wall gray. And I probably want that one as well. And when I rotate around, you can see what that looks like, and you can select different types of surfaces as well. So if I collapse those colors, let's say maybe I wanted a feature wall behind the living room to be, well, we could even say like a stone look. Let's see what is in there. That's probably more for flooring. So let's actually check tiles instead, see what that looks like. Oh yeah, there you go. So you could put tiles on the floor or back wall of a bathroom. Really the options here are quite amazing. Actually, I want to try, Let's see, what else do we have here? Asphalt, concrete, brick. I think that's, yeah, that's what I wanted. So like a brick wall behind there, I think would look really, really sharp. Let's see what that looks like. So maybe we'll take that one there, go to our feature wall, and there you go. You have a brick wall. Let's, orbit around. And so for floor surfaces, you might want hardwood, you might want carpet, tile, whatever it looks like there. So I don't know, let's say wood, see what that looks like. So if I wanted a hardwood kind of look in there, probably that one there maybe. Let's see what that looks like as our main floor. Okay, so that's something you may want to try to isolate. You might have to cut off certain sections just the way that we made our floor plan, because that made everything wood. So if we don't want hardwood in our bathrooms, we might have to draw a rectangle on our bathroom floor and just cover that with a different kind of surface. That's essentially how our materials work. So if we go actually to our home screen over here, it'll show us the materials that we've used. So if you wanted to use that brick again, so say that same brick, you could go to a different wall, and that way you're not just scrolling through all of the other menus from before. Okay, and then of course you can browse the library that we did. Okay, so we just, if you wanted to do multiple surfaces all at one time, you could shift select. So let's say I wanted to repaint that one, hold down shift, and I could do those two together. And then it just does them both at the same time. So glass and windows. So if you actually had a window that was transparent, which right now we don't actually have those yet, but let me just show you what that looks like. So when we go back over here and go glass and mirrors, when you pick, let's say, your window, when it's got this diagonal, that's going to be transparent. So you're actually going to be able to see through that. Okay, just so you know what that icon looks like, we'll be using that for glass and windows down the road. You could actually make your own material. I'm not going to do a demo on that, but if you actually had a picture of some hardwood that you prefer, you could actually bring that in, follow those steps right there. If you had a curved object that's kind of a little bit obscure, the demonstration on that was like a soup can, for example. So if I had a big cylinder, we could actually map an image that wraps around it. So those are the instructions for that. I think that's beyond the scope of this project, so we're not going to worry about that. And importing an image file. So let's say we had a painting on the wall and it was actually a photo that we had taken. You could actually import that image and bring that in and put like a big painting of your family portrait on the wall or something like that. Again, I think that's not really necessary for this scope. We'll leave it at that. Okay, so that's how all the materials. So the only one that was a little bit of a challenge, if we move this over, is our bathroom. I think what we're going to want to do is draw a rectangle in the bathroom just on the floor so it creates its own shape. In fact, maybe I'll just do that right now. So go from there to there, it creates its own rectangle, and then I can actually go back in and we'll use some kind of a tile surface for the bathroom floor. So maybe something like that. There you go. Okay, and you could do that for your bedrooms too if you wanted to do that. Maybe the utility room would be another good thing, where furnace and washer and dryer, you wouldn't have hardwood in there as well. Okay, so that's how that works. I'm just going to pause and see what else we need to do here. Okay, so one thing that I just noticed when I rotated around the view is our wall is sort of incomplete here. So we actually had these two little extra spots here that we had to pull up these walls separately. And then, of course, this is still a bit of a mess over here. So what I'm going to do is just use my hand tool, move over. Let's grab these to start with. I essentially want this to be all one complete unit. So I'm going to grab my eraser tool and just erase those little section lines. Might have to zoom in a bit more there. So grab that one, grab my hand tool, move over, eraser is E, get that one, zoom out, and then just kind of fix up the front part here. So hand tool, move over, zoom in. So I need to raise this part because that's not the door. The door is actually going to be above the walls coming down the stairs. So what we need to do is pull this part up, and we know it's 8 feet. So I'm just going to go 8 foot, enter. So now that's 8 feet. And I can erase these lines. So I'll grab my eraser tool, that line, that line, that line, that line, and this line here doesn't really belong there either. So I'm going to erase that one. And let's just orbit around there, see what that looks like. Yeah, so this part here is actually our landing that needs to be at the level of the top of the basement, and then this is eventually going to be our stairs. So what I can do is pull this one up, and we know that's going to be 8 feet as well. So we'll go 8 feet, and that is now at the right height. You could erase those lines, but I don't think it's necessary. I think we keep that separate because that's not cement, that's whatever, our structure. Okay, so now what I actually want to do is I'm going to make that wall, even though it is all just one thing, I'm going to make that as a tag so that I can turn that on and off as well, just for our demonstration purposes. So I'm just going to pause and I'm just going to do that and then show you when it's done. Okay, so I just quickly grouped all the walls, got everything picked out, everything that I needed. And so now it has its own tag and I can turn those walls on and off. Still leaves the outer line dimensions, which is fine. I think that's actually kind of a neat effect that way. So there you are. Everything's nicely grouped. If I just rotate around here, you can see that we did raise this part, which is kind of the landing when you come in from the door outside, but I haven't drawn the stairs. So I'm going to leave a lot of this now in your hands. You're going to want to go back to that design brief and just make sure that you have everything. So you need to fill in your bathroom, your bedroom furniture, your utility room, your kitchen, your appliances, any other furniture that you want to have. And also you will get to figure out how you can make these stairs. So that might need some adjustment, but you can give it your best shot. I think that covers pretty much everything except for this last section of measuring and labeling, which we will do next. Okay, so we're back, just about finished this entire project. Lots of awesome learning in here. One thing, we've already looked at this right at the beginning, which was using our tape measure tool to draw out our guidelines, and then we erase those guidelines later on. So we've already looked at that. If you were really getting into some specific designs and you needed, let's say you're going to draw a roof on top of a structure, you might want to use the protractor tool to draw out the angle of what the roof is, and that's called pitch in construction terms. So roofs have to be a certain pitch that essentially have to be approved. So like how high it actually is, like you couldn't have a roof that's way up here, necessarily. So if you were to use your protractor tool, I'll just show you how that works. So it's under your tape measure tool in here. We don't need this for this project, but I just wanted to show you for future reference. So if we grab our protractor tool and then you go to this face here, what you would do is, let's say that's our starting point. You would click. Then what you would do is you would draw out along one axis point. So right along your roof, for example. So you'd make a second click. Okay. And then when you drag this out, you can make a angle guideline, any angle that you want. So if you wanted, right now it's showing 30 right down there. So whatever your angle is of your roof, you could actually type it in specifically or just click. So let's say again, we wanted snap that into 30 right there. So that now creates a guideline, and then you could draw your roof in there as well. Okay, so that was the protractor here. So we clicked on the fulcrum, which was the start. We dragged out along one edge, clicked again, and then we just drew out our angle. You could have actually used that as a measuring tool specifically. So like you click here, you go over here, click again, draw up. So instead of clicking to set it, you can just, like if you already had an angle there, you could actually just measure your angle just to get a read on it. But we'll just undo that. In fact, we'll undo that other guide as well. So that's your protractor. But what I really want to get into is our labeling here. So let's say again, we're taking this back to a client and we wanted to show some exact dimensions on here. So the text tool is what we're actually going to use, which is also under the tape measure tool. So when we go over here, it says unlocked plane. Sorry, it says text tool when you highlight over it. So that's actually what we want. So with the tool active, so we've got the tool. So what you do is you select the face object to label, drag out, and then type your label. So let's say, I don't know, we're labeling this, I guess, because it's the only thing we can see right now, as exterior wall. I'm actually just going to close that out for now. Oops, close that as well. So let's say we're labeling this as outside wall. What I would do is select the face or object to label. Okay, so we click it, drag out, and it's actually showing us just some random information there. So now when I click again, you can type in whatever you want. So you would say south wall or maybe yard side wall, whatever you want. So south wall, enter. And that is now a label. So you can move the label by selecting it and using the move tool. So if I grab my move tool, which is M here, oops, okay, pause. Okay, so all I actually had to do was click off of it and it becomes a label there. So if I get my move tool now, I can actually move that and put it wherever I want. Okay, but the really neat thing is if I get my orbit tool and move around, that label actually follows you, so you can always see it no matter which angle you're at. Okay, so I'm just going to select that and delete it. Okay, so maybe something that's more appropriate is we want to label, I don't know, I guess the areas. You can really decide what you want to label, what you really need, but that's essentially how your labels work. So let's just try that once more. Maybe I'll say utility room from the top here. Okay, there's label under tape measure. Okay, so we got it there. And I'm just going to click on this face here, drag out, and then over here, click once, and we'll say utility room. And then you just click off of that to apply it. There we go. And then again, if we wanted to resize that, we could. Okay, move the label. Text can be edited by selecting it and going into the entity info menu on the right. So if we select that and then go to that entity info, which is the top one there. So it gives us some different options here. You can change what the arrow is. You can even change if you wanted the font to be, a different font or a bigger size, for example. Okay, so you can see those changes that just happened right there. All right, and now will be the dimensions label with the dimensions tool. So now let's say you wanted to show how long certain things were or the size of certain things, like room dimensions, that sort of idea. What we can do is, so we're gonna use the dimension tool, which is under the tape measure tool. So in here, dimensions tool, it's that one right there. Okay, dimensions. So when we click on that, the way that it works here is you select one point, select the next point, drag out along axis to set. Okay, so for example, let's say we wanted to show, let's just orbit a little bit here. Maybe we'll show what the dimensions of that floor space is right there. So we'll just orbit back around, maybe zoom in a bit here. Okay, so again, we're going to select one point, select the next point, drag out along axis to set. Okay, so we have that tool active right now. Oh, sorry, we don't. Need to go back to it here. So that's our dimensions tool. So if we go from here, so we're going to select it. Then we select the next point right over here. Okay, that didn't work. Pause. Okay, so we're back with the dimension tool. So let's say we wanted to show the length of this wall right here. Just make sure that dimension tool is active and we just click on what we want to show. So if we take that edge and drag out, okay, pause. All right, let's try that once more. So again, with that dimension tool, we would go to what we want to measure. So let's say that edge or that length right there. So we would click on it and drag out, and you can see there's a little line moving. So you can set where that line is, or you could even go up the wall if we were on a different perspective. But you can basically just click where you want to set it, and it shows that that's 10 feet. So if I orbit it around and I wanted to show what that other wall looks like, Actually, right now it's on the floor, so it might look better if that was on the wall. So let's just rotate around a little bit and try that once more. So we'll select that tool again for dimensions right there. And we're going to go from this wall. Yeah, and you can actually show that's 8 feet right there. So that's kind of a neat way to do it. So it's 8 feet tall for the walls. And then we could go to this one here because the tool is still selected. That's a 10-foot section, so we could draw that in. So it's just a really neat way that you can quickly show what the dimensions are of your spaces. So again, you can go back and edit it under the entity, the same thing if you want to make it a bigger font or change the look of it. I'm just going to select this one on the floor, that one there, and erase that. Okay, so that would be how you use your labels and your dimensions, and you can still see the label there. So feel free to add your labels and dimensions wherever you think it's appropriate, and that's something that kind of finishes off in a professional way a design like that. Okay, we're going to pause. Okay, so one other touch I'm just going to do is add an exterior door just so it gives us a little bit better perspective. So I just went to our 3D warehouse, typed in exterior door. You can see there's all kinds of versions here. So I think this one here looks good. So I click that once, drag it in. Okay, and it's a little bit tricky where you actually place the thing. So I'm just going to put it up here, and it does lock into points or corners, faces, endpoints, for example. So I'll just make sure it's kind of more or less in place. It's going to need to be rotated sideways anyway. So I'm going to click on that. Okay, now it's needs to be adjusted. But one thing that's often when you bring in components, sometimes they even have like a person standing beside it, like maybe some extras that you don't actually want. In this case, it's that label. I definitely don't want that. So what you're going to need to do is just place it and then go to your selection tool, select it, and then right click on it, and we need to explode it. Just otherwise you can't get into the details to edit them. So we click on explode, and then now you can actually select specific parts of it. So the label, click on that. And then if you wanted to, you could grab it again and then just group it back together. Oh, I think you need to do that. All connecting edges. So, or we could just lock it too. Either way, whatever, you can figure that out. So then we need to rotate that in place, which would be, of course, our rotating tool, which Q was the shortcut if you remember that. So you just go on to an endpoint here, maybe that exterior endpoint there, click on it once, drag out your axis, which is your green axis. Okay, and then we're going to rotate it around, make it exactly, we'll go 90 degrees, just type it in, enter, and there it is. And then if you wanted to move it, get your move tool, and then you can move that around. It's sometimes easier if you move it from this bottom part here, then you can really line it up with your edges nicely. It's probably something like that, or maybe actually probably right to our outside edge, something like that. Then if you need to resize it, you hopefully know how to do that as well. Okay, so let's grab our rotate. Yeah, so that just gives some better perspective. So that's pretty much it. So the things that are left is you'll still need to figure out how your stairs work. Okay, and actually there's one thing that maybe I can show you just for in case you run into this problem. So I'm just going to zoom in here to that shape, and just give me 1 second. Pause. Yeah. Okay, so essentially what you're going to end up doing is creating a bunch of, I guess, individual rectangles is probably your best bet, and then you'd pull each of them up at different heights. So I'll let you figure out the math on that. But if you end up and it gets to like you need to make this longer or shorter, your original space, what you would do is select that edge. So just make sure you got your selection tool, you would grab that edge, and I'm just zooming in a bit here, and then you would grab your move tool, which is M, and then go right to that edge, and you would actually just pull it out or make it short or whatever you need to do. Okay, so that's in case, like, because we had no idea how big those stairs are. So that might be something you want to check, go take some quick measurements on what average stairs are. So then you could put your rectangles in, let's say every 8 inches, 8 inches, 8 inches, and then how high each one of them has to go in compared to the other. So that'll be a fun little extra part of the project for you as well. So zoom back out. Use our hand tool. So it's actually looking really, really sharp. That door may have to be a bit bigger just for dimension purposes, but overall, I think this is a really fantastic looking model, and I really hope you enjoy the assignment. I look forward to seeing your finished work. All right, so that is it. Good luck. I'm sorry, I'm not going to cover this last little project here. I think that's beyond our scope as well. If we were actually designing a whole house, you could use this, create a cutaway to show the interior section. So you could actually basically essentially make the whole house disappear, and then it's just the bottom cut section there. But again, the kind of the steps are there. If you want to play around with that, feel free. But I think we'll leave it at that. All right. So good luck, everybody. And like I said, we'll look forward to seeing your finished design. Sorry, just one other thing. From previous videos where you saw how you could have your different views and scenes, that might be something that you want to do here as well. So save it as like an overhead as well as, from different angles. So that was under this one right here, I believe. Yeah, your views menu. So for example, there's your overhead. You can just bring that out. So that actually looks really, really sharp from the overhead, especially since you can see your dimensions, your labels, that sort of thing. So there's your overhead. You could have it as, kind of flat from different angles. So what I would suggest is that you save those and make some different scenes. So you could add that as one scene, add it as another, maybe even have, a couple different PNG files that you export at the end just to show your client some different angles. All right, that is now definitely it. Okay, good luck, kids. Talk to you later.